Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi, this being a show we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Charmed. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. This episode involves a pixie who's basically kind of going on a killing spree, interestingly enough. I also love that the book that the pixie, whimsical stuff comes out from is, kind of like a pop-up book, but a magical pop-up book and stuff like that. I even love that basically it turns out witches and demons are immune to it, but white lighters and humans aren't. And, you see Harry kind of get all whimsical too, and he's like, oh, let's sing this next part. And it's just like, okay, he's almost embarrassed and stuff like that. I love one thing, the actor who plays Zach is the actor who plays Todd for The Magicians. I was like, it's Todd. That's awesome. Side note, I feel like I recognize that actor from something else. Like it might be something I remember him being in when he was younger. Maybe a kid or teenager, but I don't remember. It feels like that, but I might be 100% wrong. Maybe he just has like a familiar face like that. But nevertheless, it's actually kind of a sad situation. Basically, it turns out that Pixies, in this particular case, Chloe, basically they literally have their heart on the outside because in her case it's in this acorn necklace. Zach trapped her, and basically he wanted to be like a great filmmaker, so basically Chloe ended up killing a lot of people. And the sad thing is she's all like giddy and stuff like that because they're very whimsical without it, but the moment she got her heart back, like everything came flooding back, and she's like, oh my god, I killed people, how can I live with myself? And like that was the most heartbreaking thing, just seeing her kind of break down like that, because I was like, oh, is that just part of her natural personality that she's giggling, like even though she's talking about like, yeah, and he trapped me and stuff like that, but like then you see like, yeah, because without their heart they're just like this whimsical creature. Like their heart balances them. It's kind of like they're flooded with endorphins if they don't have their heart with them. It kind of regulates them essentially. Like I said, it was just kind of sad to see, things kind of go down to that, like that, and all these innocent people killed. I mean, that other dude, was his name, Noah, ended up getting killed because he had, just because he had evidence of like Chloe and stuff like that. Because I thought that was interesting, because I was like, Chloe had him go run out in traffic, even took the phone. I'm like, that's very human. I feel like a supernatural creature would, killing or whatever, would act on instinct, not plot something like that. And it turns out the reason why is because it's human, which even he was kind of, Zach tried to be like, oh no, it wasn't me, it's all her. It's like, yes, she gets a little obsessive because that's just how pixies are in that case, especially when it comes to the person who has their heart. But the fact is that it's like she had to be following your orders, because she even said like, she's like, well, I think it's also like not necessarily Zach's orders, because it was just more so like because of their obsessive nature, like they kind of go about it whatever way they can, and that obsession just drives them crazy, which is sad, because she was like, yeah, it's not like I wanted to do it, I had to. But it's kind of interesting what the girls end up suggesting, because it's like, hey, like you and the other fairies get together, that way you can hide your hearts and stuff like that, because it's like we are able to bring up a lot of power because we're the charm ones, us coming together. It's like if the pixies do that too, then it won't be an issue. I also love, obviously Harry being under the spell and everything. He's kind of playing keep away with the Book of Shadows from Parker and Maggie. I thought that was kind of interesting. A lot of interesting things kind of go into this episode. Besides all of that, there's also the angle of like Maggie and Parker. It's kind of interesting because Parker actually brought this to them. He actually brought it to Maggie to be like, yeah, this might be something supernatural. But the fact is, Maggie's having a hard time like dealing with the whole Parker situation. It's like she can't help the way she feels, because she's, it's come up before of like, yeah, I kind of still feel something towards him and everything. But it's because she looks back and it reminds her of how easily he duped her, and she feels stupid and weak, and that's what kind of makes her kind of be like, no, I can't go down that route with Parker again. But it's kind of interesting because the entire episode, I think he's kind of, it's interesting because it's not like, oh, he's trying to like win her over or anything. He's just trying to be there to be helpful. It's like, you should go talk to Noah, and pointing them all in the right direction when it came to getting inside of there. She's like, I don't need you to come and swoop in and stuff. He's like, I don't swoop in. She's like, no, you swoop in. And he goes in and kind of swoops in and kind of turns the alarm off and everything. So I thought it was kind of interesting, because I was wondering if the reason why the pixie dust was working on him was because he was only half demon, so his human side could still be, affected. But I was like, you would think the demon side would still kind of block that. It normally would, but because his mom had given him a serum to kind of dull his demon side for a bit, then it was kind of like, okay, so that's why the pixie dust ended up working on. Which I even love Maggie being like, wow, because he's so whimsical, he's skipping and stuff, and she's like, are you skipping? He's like, yeah. The question is, why aren't you skipping again? So I love that the whimsy actually kind of makes you get a little drained and you're actually tired afterwards. It's kind of interesting that I guess it kind of has that effect of kicking your endorphins into overdrive, and then kind of like you have a sugar crash essentially. I think that's so interesting. But it does seem like when it is all said and done that Maggie is willing to kind of give Parker a second chance, because it's like, that's the crazy thing about love. The fact of the matter is someone can break up with you, they can hurt you, even give into their demon side and everything, but it's like, what can you do? And you can't change how you feel about someone. So I think for her, she's willing to take that chance, which is sad because, it's beautiful and you go, yay, but at the same time, it breaks your heart a little bit because you know that everything connected to that relationship is part of some plan for Parker's dad. Once again, I'm assuming because that was the whole point, that he's supposed to be, the vessel for the source of all evil. So it's just, I guess it's all, once again, kind of plays all into that, because we also learned, Lucy's a part of that plan as well. So it's just kind of sad because it's like, oh, it seems like everything's going according to his plan, all the while his mom is struggling to save him and everything. So it's kind of interesting. It's like I said, just kind of makes it kind of a bittersweet situation, because it's like, oh, sweet, but at the same time, it's like, oh, you're just playing into his dad's hands, So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. I also like the fact is that Maggie's powers do allow her to break through the spell of a pixie. She was able to do it for both Harry and Parker. I also love that Harry constantly has to be like, never speak ill of the dead, because Judd had that film he was making. What was it? Essentially something about the White Man Alley or something like that. I forgot what it was he said exactly. And then you had just everyone just kind of going about his film. It's so like artsy fartsy essentially and stuff like that. I don't know. It was funny, and just seeing Harry just be like, oh my God, kind of just about the movie and everything was so interesting. But that's not all. We also had the whole situation with Macy, her and Galvin, because it's like, it's kind of interesting. It's like, well, of course she told Galvin about the whole demon side of things, probably, the whole being resurrected and everything, because there's no more secrets between them and everything, which is sweet and everything. But the fact is that he's willing to help. It's like, yo, there's basically a certain kind of a surgeon who can cut away the EB, but they'd have to find him first. So they go to Mama Roz. They do a seance to bring forth his Galvin's grandmother, who promptly tries to kill Macy just because of the EB and everything. But when it's all said and done, she tells him that there is the person that can perform the surgery, but you have to go find them. You have to perform a test. If you fail them, you die. But it seems like even if you pass, there is a price to pay, because his grandmother ended up losing a finger. So the thing is it like, if you fail enough of is it going to be like every time you fail a certain amount of tests, you lose an appendage or something, or you lose something every time you fail a test, and then if it amounts to anything, like failing all of them will cost you your life, or is it just failing one? Do you have to get like a certain percentage? So like, it's like if you get 70%, you pass, and you might lose a finger or 3 along the way, but in general you pass it. Or I'm curious to see how that works, because it's like, even though she passed it, she still lost a finger. So I mean, it didn't cost her life. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in that regard, because initially Macy didn't want him to do it, because it's like, no, because it would have cost him his life. But hearing Maggie talk about her whole situation with Parker, taking him back and everything, it's like, you kind of have to take a chance with the people you love. And it's like, I am scared for you, but if this is something you want to do, then okay. And Galvin's like, I'm scared too, but I love you, so of course I'm going to take this risk, this chance. And so we see Macy and Galvin head upstairs, which we can only assume doing their thing, so that's cool. I am curious to see what this whole test is that Galvin's going to have to, or these trials Galvin's going to go through, and will it be something that can help Macy? Because it is interesting, because her situation, because even Parker's mom described it like, the reason why what's happening with Parker can have like like the thing is, like, what was it? She was saying, yeah, the demon cells don't actually pop up in Macy because it's a part of Parker. Like, he was always half human, half demon, but in Macy's case, it's more of an infection, so it's almost like combined with her rather than kind of being two separate cells like it is in Parker. In Macy, they've all kind of become one. So I thought that was kind of an interesting science fictional approach to it. Because I think that's always interesting when science fiction and fantasy kind of get blended together. Like, I don't think science fiction ever blended. I mean, not even just science fiction, just science in general. I don't know if that ever popped up in Charmed. I don't know if there was anyone really into science. That's what kind of makes Macy's whole situation very interesting. It adds to her character and just kind of, I mean, especially kind of made her harder to bring into this whole like supernatural world, just because she would always look at everything from, try and look at it from a rational scientific point of view. But nevertheless, so that's neat. And then on the other side of things, there is the Jada and Mel thing, which is kind of interesting because we do see Mel kind of crossing the line this episode because she ends up getting Zach to confess by using a spell on him, the same spell that her and Jada had used before. I think it's going to get to a point she's probably going to try and do that, but it's going to have unforeseen consequences because it's like, oh, how do you know that you can trust, Jada? But it's like, yeah, she hasn't given me reason to. I love that they're like, oh, if it's not Nico you're hooking up with, like, why do you have sex here? And then Maggie just immediately touches her. It's like, oh my God, you and Jada. It's like, wow, just super get inside of your sister's head like that. Nice. Well, not just her head, but her heart and everything. So it's just kind of interesting reading her like that. I thought it was pretty neat. And it's just so invasive, too, that you just do it out of... It's like no more secrets. It's like, oh, I know what you're thinking and what you're feeling, type of immediately. So I think that's kind of interesting. But what's also interesting is we learn more about Jada's family situation. Like apparently her parents want to meet with her, and like we kind of understand what that's all about. Apparently this is her adopted family. The fact of the matter is she found out she was a witch, but she didn't really have anyone to tell because if she told them, they really wouldn't understand. But so because of that, kind of discovering and being on her own about all this, she kind of got into drugs and stuff like that. Her family already thinks she's in a cult and everything, so like she was kind of weird about wanting to meet with her parents, even inviting Mel to go meet them too, which I guess she's like, oh no, you don't have to if you don't want to. I think it's that awkward situation of like, oh, we're already at the stage where we meet your parents, especially because it's such a big moment, because it's like, oh, you're meeting your parents after all this time. I mean, we don't know how long she's actually been away. Because for her, the Sarkana actually kind of put her back on the right path. It kind of is what saved her. I mean, it probably let her know all about this magic and stuff like that, so... But I think, Mel eventually kind of realized, like, yeah, Jada's never given me a reason to not doubt her. So, yeah, she might not tell me everything, but she's been very open with me about everything else and kind of been by my side. Plus, you have a thing for her and everything. So she decides to go with her. It's like, yeah, this is an important moment for her, so I'm going to be there for her. And lo and behold, people show up with crossbows. I'm assuming witch hunters? Which, to be fair, is like, how did they know to come after her? Like, were they watching Jada's family? Is that secretly what her family's all about? Like, are they actually part of, like, a witch hunt? Because I was waiting for the twist. Because I was, for whatever... I knew there was going to be a twist with her family. In that moment, just like, okay, the fact that you're showing up near the end of the episode, I'm like, so is there going to be some big reveal about who her parents are or something like that? Is it going to be something that kind of... Like, in some because it definitely would have come up before now, but for whatever reason, I was thinking, like, is it going to end up being, like, Parker's dad or something? But it's like, no, because we already know all of Parker's siblings, and that other one being Hunter. They never mentioned any other, so I was assuming, like, oh, that can't be the case. And plus, she's a witch and everything. There would have been a whole demon thing that probably would have come up, too. So I was like, I don't know, like, that, like, I know, so I immediately threw it out there, but I was, like, still thinking, like, there was going to be a twist in that regard, but that might be what it is. She was so scared to tell her family the truth because the fact is we might end up finding out like that she didn't like it, she wasn't the only one keeping a secret. They were too. They might be witch hunters, maybe supernatural hunters in general, but that's immediately where my brain goes because it's like they just happen to attack you at the time you go to see your parents. That's why I'm kind of like something's up there. So we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening with all that. But I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store with all of this. It's actually kind of interesting because I didn't even think about it till now. It's like, oh, everyone's doing good. All three sisters are in good relationships. I feel like that did not happen until the very end of the series somewhat for all the sisters. Just because, like, things didn't always work out for Paige, things didn't always work out for Phoebe, but it's just kind of interesting in this moment right here. In season 1, they're all in good relationships at the same time. Like, each relationship has its complications, you know. But, I mean, to a certain extent, they're on good relationships. Everything's kind of good. Like I said, so I don't know. It's just something interesting to think about. Because I think it also comes with the territory because, like, you know, a lesson that's kind of heavily leaned against the charmed ones in the original series is like, you pretty much can't have a love life because your love life is bound to fall apart because your responsibilities as a charmed one would always interfere. And that's why things never really worked out. I mean, kind of look at, you know, I'm not going to go into it because, you know, I feel like I talk about the original series too much. Kind of have to in this regard. But nevertheless, it's kind of a funny situation because, like, their love lives were always kind of being impeded by that. And you can make the argument, like, that's kind of a concern at the beginning, but currently where everything stands, it's like, it seems like it's working out for now. And you can always wait. You always have to wait for the other shoe to drop because being a charmed one does come with many complications, you know? So... But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.